Hello, and welcome to our presentation on factory method design of design patterns by Alec Baird and Dean Hall. So in the design patterns, there's a catalog of design patterns. There are three main types of patterns. The structural patterns, which allow how to assemble objects and classes, provides a lot of flexibility and efficiency. Behavior patterns, which is all about the algorithms and the assignments between objects. And the creational patterns, well, this is where we're going to get into the factory method and where it resides. So the factory method is a creational design pattern that provides an interface for creating objects in a superclass, but allows subclasses to alter the type of objects that will be created. And we'll get into this a little bit later. So we've got our project that we're working on, and we are wondering where this design pattern or this method, factory method, could be used. So let's take a look at this, our meal app that we're calling Yum, by the way. So we have our meal app, and we've got our first release out, and it's storing recipes, and there's items within those recipes and meal plans. And then all of a sudden it becomes very popular. And our users start asking if we could add, yep, you got it, an inventory tracking process to our app. So now we run into an issue. As we look at our code, we want to try and figure out how we're going to do this. We started with an item in a recipe, and now we have an item for an inventory. What do we do? Do we create separate classes, a separate class for each recipe item, an inventory item, or can we combine common properties of each? Since we have our version 1 release of the meal app, with the new project of adding the inventory tracking, we could simply add another class for the inventory tracking, such as what's depicted here, the recipe items and inventory items. As we create these new class for this inventory item, we begin to notice that the recipe item and the inventory tracking item share common attributes. So what can we do with these common attributes? So the fix here is, of course, the factory method within design patterns. So what we would do is we would take and we would declare an item class as an interface, and then add the common attributes and methods to this interface. We then design subclasses of the interface to provide different implementations of the different items that we have. And then on the other side, on the left side, we create an item creator class. This becomes our factory, and it uses the item interface. But then we create subclasses to the factory, and within those subclasses, we can override the base factory methods to return different types of items. And anytime we need to add a new item, we can simply create a new subclass. So why factory method within the design patterns? Here it allows us to be able, if we don't know the exact types of dependencies that we're going to be working with, we can then add subclasses to override those factory methods. It also provides us a way for our users to extend our library or framework if we were to publish that. And this is through inheritance, which is the easiest way to extend superclasses. It also allows for reuse instead of having to always rebuild. And by doing this, we can save system resources. What are some of the pros and cons of the factory design pattern? The pros is it helps us to avoid tight coupling between our factory and subclasses and its subclasses. We can also move the item creation code into one place or one code file within our project, which can make supporting that code much easier. It also allows us to be able to introduce new types without breaking existing code. Conversely, one of the biggest cons on this factory is if we didn't start using the factory pattern in our coding process, well, it's going to entail adding some interfaces and subclasses, and it can be a little hard probably to get going, but we are going to be introducing those things into our code. We'd like to thank you for watching and listening to this presentation, and this is our reference, the reference in which was used for this presentation. Thank you.